Congratulations for you and your finances. You have that rental property and now you're looking to figure out how you actually go ahead and collect that rent. And also congratulations to today's video sponsor, Base Lane, but more on that later. What's up? My name is Avery. I'm a real estate agent and investor in the Durham, North Carolina area, and I got interested in investing in real estate in 2018, and I bought my first property in 2019, and I collected my first rent check a few months after I bought that first property after doing a couple of renovations. And I learned all about financial freedom and how to make my life a lot better, and I learned all about passive income. Now, owning rental properties is not purely passive, but there are a lot of things that you can do to make your life a lot easier, and one of those main things is rent collection. And like I always say, I want to make a lot more money and do a lot less work. Now, in order to make more money and do less work, you can do a lot of those old school tried and true things like buying real estate, because that's always been a fantastic investment. But you can't do a lot of those old school things like go ahead and collect rent in person. No more are the times needed for when you have to go drive over to your tenant's property, pick up a check or receive a check in the mail, get a money order, make sure it's actually filled out to the correct person, or someone throw cash in your face in order for you to actually receive your rent. I think if I were to collect rent in person, the only way that I would actually want to receive it is through a money gun, when someone literally threw money in my face. But now you can see I have to go pick all of that up, and that really just sucks. Even though it might seem cool if you could get money rained down on you, I guarantee there is no tenant in the world who has ever paid money through a money gun, and if there is, please send me their number because I want to be friends with that person. But collecting rent in person, there are just going to be a number of issues associated with that. The first issue with this is going to be time, because in order to collect rent in person, you have to physically get it somehow, whether someone's mailing it to you, whether you go drive over there, whether again, they knock on your door and shoot some money in your face, which again, probably not likely, but there are a lot of things that could potentially go wrong throughout that whole scenario. Plus you have wasted a lot of your time and you physically have to be somewhere in order to collect that rent. We want this to be much more passive for you. We want you to be able to travel, do cool things, hang out with your family, or do just absolutely nothing while rent comes right into your bank account. Number two, like I just said, it has to actually be in person. We want this to be a passive business. We want this to not be something that we have to focus on all the time. We didn't buy real estate so we could give ourselves a second job. We bought real estate so we could give ourselves financial freedom. And not only does that mean money, but that also means time. So we want to be able to collect rent online and not in person, where we have to physically go and get something or even think about it. The third thing is there can be a lot of mistakes when it comes to collecting rent in person. Someone's check could bounce because either they actually didn't have that money, or they forgot that the money hadn't gotten removed from their account, or you had withdrawn that money. So it was just sitting there and they thought they had all these funds and the rent's been paid, but it actually hasn't. So now it's 7 days past the first of the month and you thought you had a check of rent and it turns out you don't. Or it's possible that they make a money order and they make it out to the wrong person, and then they have to get a new money order, and it just takes time, and you still have to pay your rent and your mortgage every single month. So if you get that rent and then you don't get it in time to pay your mortgage, you're paying late fees, so you're paying for all of this poorly done business that you're doing. And lastly, if you're getting in person and you really like doing stuff in person, you have to physically go to the bank to deposit it. The bank isn't open all the time, and banks are kind of annoying to deal with, and you have to wait in line. And again, it's just another thing that you have to do, whereas instead you could collect rent online, have your mortgage be paid online, and just do everything online and literally just never think about it. Personally, I just spent about 5 minutes picking up all that money off the floor, and I'd rather not do that very often because it just wastes a lot of my time. I could have been doing something else that could have been more valuable, unless I truly wanted to just shoot a bunch of money everywhere and pick it up, because sometimes it is actually fun to use the money gun. But instead of you doing things stupidly and old school, you can go ahead, scroll down, make that thumbs up button blue, and learn how to collect rent properly. Of course, we have alluded to it, you need to be able to collect rent online, and there are so many sources for you to be able to do this. There are paid ones, there are free ones, and there are some that are better than others, but as long as you're collecting rent online, you're going to be doing far better than the alternative. Some examples of some paid sources are Rent Ready and Build Them. Those are also going to have some type of property management software associated where people can go in and request maintenance. I do think when you are starting out, you do not need to utilize one of these paid platforms, unless all of a sudden when you're starting out you have 100 units. They can be far more helpful the more units that you have, but some of these free ones are even still great when you have lots of units and can do some awesome things for you. Some great free ones that I've used in my life are going to be apartments.com, formerly known as Cozy, and BaseLane, today's video sponsor. I actually recently started using BaseLane because it's a lot easier and better, in my opinion, than Apartments.com. Apartments.com is a great place to utilize because you can still do your background checks there, list your apartment and collect rent, and also have that money go straight to your bank account that then pays your mortgage. But BaseLane can just give you a lot more features and allow you to do a lot more cool things. Plus, you can earn interest on the money that you receive. One thing that Apartments.com lacks that BaseLane has is that accounting feature. So when that money comes in, your transactions are associated with your bank account and you have them associated with that property, so you can see what you spent on mortgage, other repairs and maintenance, what money that you received in rent, and that can all be classified so you know how well your property is performing and you can figure out what is actually going on with your portfolio rather than potentially not knowing or having to track it manually. The awesome thing about BaseLane is when you get money into that account and are receiving rent, that you can earn APY depending on the amount of money you have in the account. So it's tiered, and today, if you have over $50,000 in that account, you receive 4.19% APY. So if you're receiving rent and you get $1,000 a month in rent, you get 4% on that money that comes in. So that's pretty cool without you having to actually do anything or move it to another account that's different. So you can all just keep it in one place, really simple, while it continues to earn interest. But most importantly, whatever you choose, the thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that it is online and much easier for you and automated. I am personally someone who is very lazy, and I work very hard so I can be very lazy because I want things to come easy after I've worked hard for them, because it's boring if you just do absolutely nothing. But you can put a lot of upfront work into something and then potentially over time do absolutely nothing once you have that thing set up and it's just making you money. Other things that are fantastic about collecting rents online is it's just going to be less steps for both of you. Your tenant is not going to have to go to the store or go to the bank and get a money order or a check or write a check. People mostly don't even really know how to write mail or letters anymore because no one really does that. And then you don't have to do these extra steps anyway. Even if you're smart enough to know you don't have to go to the bank in order to deposit a check, you still might have to whip out your phone and actually put it into your bank account through that picture deposit platform, and then learn how to actually pay your mortgage. And if you forgot to put the money in time and you had auto draft in order to get your mortgage done, and there's no money in there, then you're gonna get screwed with some bank fees. The second thing is it just seems a lot more professional. If you are working with tenants and you're doing a good job fixing those repairs and maintenance quickly because you are a good landlord and you care about keeping your tenants in and having low vacancy, and you also have this rental collection platform and you can do things online, then you're just going to seem a lot more professional. People are gonna enjoy working with you and they're gonna enjoy renting properties from you, and you're just going to have an easier time getting people in and having people stay and pay their rent on time, especially because a lot of these platforms, including Apartments.com, BaseLane, anyone that you would choose, will have auto ability to pay rent. So your tenant can just put it on. As soon as it hits the first, it just automatically withdraws from their bank account, so you and they do not even have to think about whether or not they're going to pay late. And lastly, really why you're going to want to collect rent online, and like I've said this whole video, so you can do the things that you want with your time. Either you could be traveling, because in order to be able to receive rent and not be in person, you're able to travel. If you're in person, you can't really go anywhere between the 30th and the 2nd of the month or whatever it is, and potentially even longer in case there are any issues. Or you could just hang out with you and your family and the people you care about, or do absolutely nothing, or make incredible YouTube videos that you know everybody will like, and subscribe to your channel because you put out so much great content. And some even more helpful tips after you actually receive that rent. What are you going to actually do with that money in order to stay lazy and continue to do what you want with your time? So how I stay as a lazy entrepreneur, I have that BaseLane account where all of the money comes in, automated rent collection, and then I have the transactions associated with that property and a separate bank account. I always recommend to have a separate bank account for each property you own. But if you have a 3-unit property, for example, you don't need 3 different bank accounts. You would just need 1 bank account per property. So you can just keep everything separated, and it's just a lot easier to do your accounting. So after you have that separate bank account, which you can either have on BaseLane or an external bank account, then you can kind of just be able to set everything up on auto pay. So if you have building 1, and then the rent comes in from those 2 units, and you have bank account 1 associated with everything in those 2 units, and then you have mortgage 1 that is on auto pay, you receive that money on the 1st, and then it will take maybe, let's call it 3 to 5 business days for that to actually get to your bank account. And then you put your mortgage on auto pay, and I usually do it on the 10th of the month, because once it comes to the 15th, then you start getting late fees. So the 10th of the month usually is enough time for that money to get from these platforms for me into my bank account so I can actually pay my mortgage. So really, I just get an automated notification that I've received rent, and then after I paid my mortgage, I get an automated notification that I paid my mortgage, and then I can look and see how much richer I've gotten because it'll tell me how much debt that I've paid down. Plus, I can see in my bank account that I have over here how much cash flow I made. So it's really nice where I can just pretty much do absolutely nothing and see how much more money I made that month. Now, as I have alluded to, I don't do absolutely nothing with my properties. I just want to make this piece far more passive than it potentially could be. I do care about making the properties be in good shape, getting all the repairs done quickly, and I definitely pride myself on making sure my tenants and I have good relationships. So all of those things are very important as well in order to keep this business passive. Once you have all of this rental collection online set up, things are going to be a lot simpler for you and your life is going to be a lot better, and you won't have given yourself a second job, and all you'll have to worry about as a new landlord is getting those calls at 2 a.m. and going and unclogging those toilets. And ultimately, the theme of this video is so you can make fewer decisions and earn back a lot of your time. Because if we went back to collecting rent in person, we'd have to make that decision of how we're going to receive it and the type of money. Is that a money order, check, cash, and then which bank that I'm going to go to, and all of these things, and what time I'm going to go over there, and when I have to make sure that I can potentially, you have kids, so you have a babysitter so you can go drive over to get that money, or whatever it may be. There's just way more decisions you'd have to make if you did this all in person, and if you don't do it in person, then you get a lot of this time back as well. Thanks for watching, and if you want to create your own free account with BaseLane, go ahead and go to the description below, and there'll be a link there, and you can set up your account very easily and start collecting rent for free and get that extra interest with your money in that account. So thanks again for watching, and if you like that video, please hit subscribe so you can learn more about real estate investing and the agent business. Thanks again, and more wealth is coming your way.